Russia appears to have made some massive gains outside of Bakhmut. And is it because Western aid is failing Ukraine? I'm going to be getting to the bottom of it. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's December 19th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, taking a look at the control map, and there's a couple of substantial changes, but I will show you guys the big one. Right here, you can see the town of Bakhmut. Let's zoom it in here, and as you can see, basically from Optina up to through Koromova, all the way to Berkiva, you're seeing significant. Well, individually, none of them are that significant, but collectively, a very significant pushing of the Russian front line. So notice here, first off, this windbreak outside the city of Klachivka. You can see Russian forces advancing up, moving towards these heights. As we talked about, Russian forces need to control these heights outside Klachivka in order to take the town itself. Likely, this push to the north to take this forested area is likely part of that. You can see Ukrainian forces pushed out of the forest into this open terrain here where it's somewhat hillier. But this is likely a supporting effort to allow Russian forces to continue to move along this high ground. You can see outside Kromova, you've got Russian forces advancing into this high ground as well. It is all in all just sort of a broad-based Russian offensive, at least in and around this Bakhmut region. The other place where Russian gains have been substantial is near this Novomykhailivka and Marinka. You can see here this small forested area outside the town of Marinka. Russian forces have completed their advance, as well as in Novomykhailivka. You can see Russian forces, again, they're likely taking up positions to prepare to take the town. This has been kind of Russia's sort of standard tactic here, where they take the town, or they surround the town, establish good support by fire positions before entering the town itself. And this has been a very effective protocol for Russian forces. And that's likely what they're doing here. They're occupying this cluster of buildings, which, especially if they're multi-story buildings, may overlook this entire town, giving them the ability to both see and direct fire and engage as forces sort of enter and clear block by block this town itself. Looking over at the combat map, you can see 92 combat engagements with the Russian military by Ukraine, and likely a sign, of course, that yesterday we saw a sort of slowing down of Russian offensive action, but that seems to have just been a refit period because we haven't seen a 100 attack day, but this is as close as we've seen in probably 6 months, or a sign that Russia's offensive still having plenty of gas left in the proverbial tank. You can see them focusing heavily on Avdiivka and Bakhmut, but still making some fights around this Novomykhailivka and around Marinka. Now, guys, if you want to see the tactics that Ukraine is still relying on in this primarily defensive fight, the best place to check those out is actually going to be combatvetnews.com. We just dropped a video. This is uncensored combat footage. I can't do the analysis here on this channel. You guys probably know Warthog Defense, a large pro-Ukrainian channel with like 600,000 subs, just got deleted off of YouTube. And YouTube, very sus, initially said they were impersonating someone else, and then later said they were spreading misinformation. In all likelihood, this is probably a hack similar to the one I was a victim of, where Russian aligned actors get control of a large media account and then petition YouTube to remove an impersonating account. And YouTube just refuses to take action in this dispute. So that's one of the reasons the extreme sensitivity of YouTube to any combat footage has become pretty acute. So I put it all on combatvetnews.com. Twice a week, we check out the most viral combat footage. This is the best way to support the channel because I own the site, I own the hosting. I've recently updated the video, so you have two options of video players in case, I know a lot of people have said their first video player sometimes could be buggy in certain browsers. So again, check us out, guys. $5 a month. It's if you can afford it, it makes a huge difference to me and the team. So thanks again to everybody that supported us and checks us out. Now, let's talk about why this offensive has gone the way it has. And the number one culprit seems to be not necessarily a lack of aid today, but likely diminished foreign aid into the future. Ukraine reportedly having acute artillery ammunition shortages, as well as severe delays in receiving Western security assistance, likely because of the U.S. Congress, is forcing Ukrainian forces to sort of be more careful in how they deploy their material, and is definitely delaying future counteroffensive operations, probably indefinitely. In an interview with Reuters yesterday, Ukrainian forces reported a really severe shortage of 122 and 152 millimeter shells all across the front line. Ukrainian forces redistributing their artillery, replanning military tasks, trying to figure out where the artillery is most needed. And these shortages are likely to persist for a long time, though while Russian forces are also having issues with ammunition, both sides are actually reporting that Russian forces are able to fire artillery at 5 to 7 times a greater rate than Ukrainian forces, and that while both Ukraine and Russia have expended their domestic stocks of artillery shells, Russia is able to procure theirs from North Korea, while Ukraine and its Western counterparts have basically run through the Western world stock of artillery shells, and now they find themselves trying to produce more. But again, North Korea, who's had 50 years to build up their supply, simply seem to be a much more reliable source for Russia than the Western world, which has a limited ability to manufacture these things in-house. Of course, the result of these sort of unknowns as far as security assistance is really made Ukraine mothball offensive plans, change their plans to conserve resources, and as ISW speculates, Ukraine may have to make tough decisions, this is a quote from them, about prioritizing certain sectors of the front over sectors where their limited territorial setbacks are least damaging. So I've been speculating for a while about why Russia seems to be prioritizing taking some regions over others, and what I think may actually be happening is Ukraine simply may be choosing to let Russia through in these sectors or to not mount as robust a defense in order to focus their resources on shoring up areas where a loss would be more devastating. So Russia may be focused on Avdiivka, but the Ukrainian military simply says, listen, we're going to take our limited resources and make sure that Russia can't carve too deep into Avdiivka, even if it means letting Russia make advances near, for example, Vesele, right? You can see, let's see if we can back it up just a little bit. It should be a couple of days ago. There you go. You can see here, right? This is last week. You're seeing some, while this isn't really valuable for Russia, you can see that Russia did make some advances in and around this region, likely because Ukraine has simply deprioritized it. So again, guys, if you have concerns, if you feel like this is something that you aren't happy, if you're a U.S. Citizen, you should write your congressman, honestly. You should just go online, Google congressman or senator and your state, and they almost always have a form that lets you can fill out, and you can just be like, listen, you should approve Ukraine aid, period. Those guys got to win elections too. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyway, that's all I had, guys. Thanks to the Colonel tier members at combatvetnews.com. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without all your support. Thank you so much, and I will see all you guys in the next one. Cheers.